everyone! I'm Rosie and welcome back to my channel! As soon as fall hits, all I want is pumpkin everything. If you've seen my other videos, you know I adore New York style bagels. And today I'm going to show you how to make the pumpkin version, with a few different topping options including cinnamon crumbs. These bagels are crunchy on the outside, chewy on the inside, mildly sweet, and full of pumpkin flavor. Let's get started. I'm measuring out 550 grams of bread flour. You can certainly use all-purpose flour instead. The bagels might not be as chewy due to the lower protein content in all-purpose flour, but they will still be delicious. I add 1 teaspoon of Himalayan pink salt, 1/3 cup of dark brown sugar, 3 teaspoons of pumpkin spice, and 1 teaspoon of active dry yeast. I buy my yeast in bulk and store it in the freezer in the Talenti container. Then I add 1 tablespoon of barley malt syrup. This is the secret to giving bagels their distinctive flavor that differentiates them from your usual bread. I use it in all my bagel recipes. I add 3/4 cup of pumpkin puree. This is roughly half of a 15-ounce can. I know it's kind of annoying to just use half the can, but you can always double the recipe and freeze the extra bagels. Once they're completely cooled, I wrap them individually in foil and they freeze so well. Just defrost them at room temperature and you can have homemade bagels anytime. Then I mix in 1 cup of warm water. This dough will be quite sticky from the pumpkin, and different brands of pumpkin puree might have different amounts of moisture, so I recommend starting with 3/4 cup of water and adding a little bit extra at a time if the dough feels too stiff or dry. From the moment you start mixing in the water, you'll notice the incredible fragrance of the pumpkin and spices. It's so warm and comforting and smells just like autumn. Once all the flour has been mixed in, I'm going to let it rest for about 30 minutes to hydrate, and I'll come back to fully mix the dough. It'll be much easier to handle then. Smooth out any clumps and fold the dough gently to gather it into a ball. There are 2 rises in this recipe. The first one will be at room temperature for 1 to 2 hours until it's doubled in volume. The second one is in the fridge for at least a few hours or until the next day. The long cold proof serves 2 main purposes. It allows the flavors to fully develop, and this sticky dough will be much easier to shape into bagels once it's been chilled. Also, this builds flexibility into the recipe so you have the option of prepping the dough a day in advance and then making the bagels the following day, which is what I usually end up doing. The next day, I'm going to start boiling water in the kettle and preheat the oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Whenever I need to boil water, I start it in the kettle and then pour it into the pot because I find it faster this way. I'll also get my baking sheets ready, each lined with parchment. I have a 1/4 cup of vegan unsalted butter, which I've mostly melted in the microwave for about 15 seconds. I add 1/2 cup of bread flour, but all-purpose flour works just as well. Then a 1/4 cup of white sugar, a 1/4 cup of dark brown sugar, and a teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm also going to add a pinch of salt because I used unsalted butter. You can use any vegan or dairy butter you like. You can also use salted butter instead and just leave out the extra pinch of salt. I mix it all together with a fork just till the crumbs come together. You don't want to overmix or else the crumbs will be too small or turn into a paste. This is enough crumb topping for the whole batch of bagels. By the way, this crumb topping is crunchy the first day you bake it, but it will soften by the next day. They're still tasty though, either way. I'm going to take the dough straight from the fridge and divide it into 8 pieces. You don't need to let the dough come up to room temperature. Shape each piece into a tight ball. I like to pinch the sides down and then drag the ball on the cutting board. I rotate at 90 degrees and drag again. Try to tolerate the stickiness when you're making the ball. I don't add any flour to the board here because the friction of dragging the dough helps create the tightness that I'm looking for. This helps with oven spring so the bagels turn out nice and rounded, not flat or kind of triangular when you look at them from the side. But I do generously coat them in flour once they're formed so they don't stick together and are easier to stretch out. You don't need to let these rise again. The time it takes to gather the toppings is enough rest time. Here's what my whole setup looks like: boiling water, baking sheets, slotted spoon, bagels, and toppings. Having everything ready and close by makes the process super easy and efficient. To the boiling water, I add 1 tablespoon of barley malt syrup. This gives the crust incredible flavor. Starting with the first bagel I shaped and going in the order I made them, I'm going to stretch it out before boiling. Yeah, I know it's comical that I'm stretching out the bagel this much, but trust me, the hole has to be huge or else you'll have no hole at all once the bagels are baked. I actually wished I stretched this batch out a little bit more. I'm brushing the bagels with egg white. After the first layer, I go back and apply a second layer. This gives the crust a gorgeous shine and crunch and helps the toppings stick. Even if you're baking plain bagels, I still recommend this step. For the crumb topping, just gently press it onto the bagel. You can use smaller or larger crumbs depending on your preference. Of these 4 types of pumpkin bagels, which one is your favorite? I'd love to know in the comments. While I do enjoy the sweetness of the cinnamon crumb, my personal favorite is actually the one with pumpkin seeds. I just love the nutty flavor. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more easy cooking and baking videos, and say hi in the comments. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!